welcome to another episode of Woodward's Watercolours. Now, I've actually had a bit of a flu. Sometimes I think people say they've had a flu when they've had a cold. Boy, did it knock me off my feet. Anyway, apologies that there was no out and about video last week. This week we're back at the netball nights when my daughter is at training and I'm getting to spend some time in the van. And what we're going to look at tonight is this beautiful scene of the Mourne Mountains. It's of Slieve Donard. I don't know how well you can see it. There's a wee bit of reflection going on there. You'll be able to see it better anyway when the view's plan view. But we're going to look at this beautiful snowy scene from Slieve Donard. We're going to tackle it in Derwent Inktense because it's just great tackling everything in Derwent Inktense, really, isn't it? And what I've got to drink tonight is I have a standard drink of Coke, which is just lovely and easy because I'm still not feeling 100%, so I just want things to be nice and easy. So come on, let's jump into this and see where this one goes, all right? So come on, let's get started. First things first, the beautiful sound. Sweet Coke Zero. At least it's got no sugar in it. Fortunately, you had to listen to me drinking there. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we need to get out the Derwent Inktense. And the first thing that I do whenever I'm starting to draw with them is I look and see, okay, what colours am I going to use? Now, hopefully you can see this a lot better now. There shouldn't be too much shadow, but you can see the scene. It's really very blue, actually, because of... So we're going to take because of the... Tends to be that snow seems to take on the colour of the skies, particularly in the shade. So I'm going to use, let's go for the iron blue, lapis blue. I've got bright blue. Let's just take a lot of the blues, actually. And storm dust, definitely we're going to use storm dust. We're going to take a little bit of, I don't know about the saddle brown. I think it's probably more in the amber that we're going to use. And the mustard actually might be even better if we can find where I've placed mustard. That would be pretty good. Don't know now where I've put it though. So we've got baked earth. I think baked earth is probably too bright. Let's take some of the amber anyway and see. So definitely the amber. Hopefully, I don't know whether you guys can see on this side here. So what we've got so far is we're taking out the amber, we're taking out storm dust, taking out iron blue, sea blue, bright blue, lapis blue. I also want to use Malibu because it's going to be absolutely beautiful for some of that sky, and also some of the cerulean blue, I think, as well, or dark aquamarine, sorry. Let's then get some, let's go for the Payne's grey for some of that darker, and a little bit of, now what sort of a green are we going to go for? It's quite a bright green, so let's go for the light olive actually and see what it does along with some of the leaf green. Now, I think that takes us to quite a number of the colours that we're going to need. Now, the only one that I'm thinking to use is the, there's one other, burnt umber. That's the one that I wanted. Okay, so let me just move this out of the way. Just hang my keys up would be a good idea so I know exactly where they are. And then we are going to make a start. Now, first thing I want to do, I've got the orientation of the paper here this way. This is a Sea White of Brighton 350 GSM cold pressed paper. So let's just establish a little bit of the boundaries here at the top. So let's just, this is the, oh, that's the dark aquamarine. That's not the one that I wanted, but it's certainly where I have now started. Oh, Colin. We're going to go with a Malibu 1212. Malibu 1212. It even rhymes. So we're going to get that in there. Going to find some of that across there. And the thing that I love most of all about the Inktense is how kind of loose I can actually be with it, you know. So let's take some of the storm dust and find where it is. It's actually quite hard to try and find some of these colours today. Don't know why that is. There's some of the storm dust. Maybe turn them around this way. Maybe that be a wee bit easier. And we're just going to try and get in some of the little bit of this background here where what's actually happening is let's get the saddle of the mountain disappearing under the cloud, and then that line here. Let's establish this line across here, and then really what we can do from this point on is begin to try and find the shape of the thing. Now, what I find with the Inktense is it's not, for me, the Inktense is not about trying to get accuracy. The Inktense is about trying to get the feel of the place. I'm just leaning a little bit darker on the pathway here. That's what we're looking to do here at this point. I'm just getting a couple of those steps. I've walked up here. It's not my favorite thing to do, to walk up a mountain, I have to say. But at the same point, I'm really glad that I did it the one time that I did, and I have no desire to do it again. As he says. So I'm going to take some of the dark cerulean now. So it's going to take, actually, let's take a little bit of the lapis blue, because just going to move some of that across for, it's maybe a little bit light for what we're looking for. But the other thing is, we're going to be able to skew all of the colors. So we're going to take the dark aquamarine. That'd be a better tone, I think. And sometimes I find that it takes me to actually pick up the color to be able to decide that it's going to work for me or it's not going to work for me. That would be a very common thing for me with these, that it takes a little bit of time to kind of figure those things out. And there's some rocks and things that are appearing here. Now at the minute we're really just kind of trying to build this scene, and this is the point that I find that it takes quite a leap of faith to be able to just continue, because at times this feels like the ugly phase. Now I have definitely done videos before about the ugly phase and how the ugly phase is something that paintings in general and artwork seems to go through. So we're taking the olivine now. Olivine, light olive, sorry, is 1540. We're just going to take in a little bit of this in some of these sections here, just to poke it through. So at this stage we're really just building the scene. Now I know that this probably isn't a common way for loads of people to work, but it works for me, just building the scene just nice and slowly. I'm actually just realizing that more of the storm dust is needed for a couple of that section there. So let's get, feels like that. Let's just darken that down ever so slightly. So we're not going to need a whole heap. So I'm going to go back to the storm dust, just for those in between the path bits there. Remember as well with the Inktense that the key is not, you're not going to need to colour the whole thing in, because you can transfer the ink, because it's transferable like that, and that's part of the joy of using this media. Now, so up here we've got this bit of the mountain here, and not quite as severe there, but some of these lines here going across. Okay, so let's take some of the burnt umber 1903. We're just going to take some of that in there, okay? Just take some of that really rich brown. There's actually going to be some of that lighter brown across there. And I think I'm going to take some of the Payne's grey and just lightly put it down here. So that's Payne's grey there. And we're just going to just add in a little bit of detail into these mountains that are definitely disappearing in the distance here. The other thing that I wanted to do was use the Payne's grey to be able to get to these trees, which for me are one of the most important part of this thing. So let's get in the background this little pop of that feels like a burnt sienna, or as in this case is going to be the amber, just for that little bit of a pop of colour. And I think actually I might just add a little touch there and just a little bit there, and that's all we're going to use. Okay, now then what we're going to do is we're going to take the Payne's grey, if you can find it. Well, there's the iron blue. Now the iron blue, do we want it? It's going to be nice, and it is, see, it's nice and dark. So do we want it instead? I think we want it instead. Let's go with a nice dark shadow there with the, just, I'm turning this, and the reason that I'm turning this is to be able to get something that's a little bit finer, because I do want to be able to show, okay, so there are actually trees here, and they seem to be, I don't know whether they're deciduous or not, but they certainly look much darker. So just twirling the pencil as I go up here to be able to get some of that kind of detail. And I'm not looking for absolute accuracy, I am looking for the general feel of the thing. So just going to get that here, and I can really angle this around, so we're going to get the general feel. So it's really, really dark, so I really want to lean really nice and heavy. Can I use the word really anymore? And get those those trees really happening, and the way they're really clumped together there, and then they drift off more into being lighter and thinner again. Now I'm stretched a little bit to try and get the light and thin, because the pencil is getting darker or getting more blunt the more that I use it, which is really part of the learning to work with the Inktense. Is you're gonna, if you're looking to maintain a point, you're not going to be able to do it well, because it is much more like using a really soft bead like a 4 or 5B, because it's not going to hold on to the sharpness, because they are soft, they are ink based and soft. And we're also going to create this darkish monstrosity here that's coming down to this side there. Okay, so, and also it's going to be that interesting kind of a blue as it goes. Right, okay, so that's all of the pencil work that I want to do, and I want to see whether we can create an actual mood out of this and what little that we've laid down. So I'm going to get the water organised and then have a couple of slurps of my Coke, and then I shall be back to add the water. Okay, so I've got my water added, had my slurps of Coke. This is the 3/4 flat wash by the Simply Dealer Rowney range. I've got my little box that I carry with me that Isaac, he what do you call it, 3D printed that for me, and it's got a little bit of sponge in it, so I'm just going to get that wet so we're good to go if needs be. And I don't particularly want the colours mixing too much tonight. At that time that I did the video where it was in Cave Hill, it was a little, I wasn't as impressed as I might have been whenever that one got going. So what we're going to do first of all then is activate this. Now, this is going to be this mixture of blues here, because I got a little bit confused as to what the colour was. So what we are going to do is we're going to take some of this, the Storm, oh, Storm is such a beautiful colour, it really, really is. And we can just lift a little bit of that, and I don't need to give in a whole heap of detail to that, but what we do want to do is begin to move some of this for these mountains and see how these work together. Now, the thing that I wanted with this one was, I'm letting that bleed ever so slightly. What I wanted with this one was the flat edge brush doing its thing. So the brush was really important to me. We're getting a bit of the pop of that colour, which is nice. Q having that area to be able to adjust the amount of water that's going through, and just to move that across there. I'm quite pleased with that actually. And let's activate this across as well. Just really agitating this as we go and bring it down. Now again, that's a bit darker than I would kind of want normally. That's all right though. Happy enough with that. And this is where we want to hopefully see if we can get in the shadow work. Now I'm letting that bleed in together, and that's actually going to work quite nicely. I don't want it to bleed too much though, so what I can do is dry off my brush and effectively cauterize the bleed of that, moving that across, and left a good bit of that brown so it's not too much part of it, and then begin to just move these together. So this is just going to pull together hopefully somewhat of a like a bluey sort of tone scene that is hopefully going to look kind of snowy. I don't know whether this is going to be successful or not, but we shall try our very best. I'd used it to there one of the brighter tones, which wasn't overly working so well, but this hopefully is going to work well here. And we're just going to agitate this a little bit as we go across, not wanting to get the entire thing going, just wanting to, there's a bit of fauna going on there. That's where these brushes are just absolutely wonderful. I'm just going to pull that in there. Okay, the other thing that I want to do is, so we're going to get this path nice and dark. That's one thing that I do want, hopefully, is getting in some of the storm, not some, a good lot of the storm dust as it works in that path. And the other thing that I wanted to do was trying to get in a little bit of that sort of cloud backdrop there. Now it's a little bit fussy because I'm not drawing this on top of something that's dry. I'm just letting it go as it is. I don't know, hopefully the video was telling me that I was on low battery. Hopefully that hasn't affected things. If it has, I'm very sorry. Give me hopefully that little bit of a path. Now I'll be able to lift some of that in a little second, but I want to really get this darker tone in this darker area. Now, am I regretting the fact now that this is really going to be really very blue? Not in the slightest, because actually what that's going to do hopefully is give a really interesting kind of a tone to these trees. You know, it's going to be much bluer than obviously than I had bargained for, but we're going to work with that. So I'm not trying to just make the best out of a bad situation. I am really quite pleased as to the detail that this is going to give me, and that hopefully that kind of feeling of this is more of a winter scene, and that's exactly what I'm going for as the artist here. So using just a little bit of the corner of that brush there to be able to give me that information. That's where a flat edge and the tool that you use I find is so important. So the other thing that I can then do is take some of that blue, because leaving as well, I was about to say there, now I really do want to darken down this ever so slightly, but I don't want to make it so that every single line that I have created then is now becoming agitated by water. The thing that I really like most of all about the Inktense is the fact that you can still see the line work. That's why I like it. Now I'm going to choose to darken this shadow down a bit. I'm going to lift some of this blue to let it inhabit this space down here, because I want it to communicate even more than it does already. This is a snow scened area, so I'm going to lift the blue. I'm going to move it across just down into different sections here to this area, and I have to say I think we're getting to where I wanted this, where I hoped that this would go. Just darken this little area down here, and also there's a little bit of tree that's happening there. I'm going to touch that very gently because I don't want that to be an awkward big blob. Really, I do not want that. The other thing then that I can do as well is taking some of that dark tone and bringing that, so agitating it across there, bringing it across to this bit here, and just letting that work together a little, which is actually, now I am pleased with that. Really pleased with how this blue now is kind of just inhabiting more than the space that I had thought it might. And that's exactly where I'm going to stop. Oh, one last thing. I need a bit of a splat somewhere else. So I think where I want the splat to occur, so we've got loads and loads of this blue here. Let's just let that play on that little corner, which will just, what the splats tend to do for me is it feels like it tells it to, there's more going on to this side of the painting, so it just drags the eye that little bit along. But in terms of just capturing the scene that is in front of me, I don't think that's too bad at all. You can tell me what you think. Well, what did you think of that? I was just looking at it there for a minute thinking, I am pretty pleased with how that turned out. Snow scenes can be really very difficult. The main thing that I think that I have noticed about snow scenes is there's so much more blue in the shadow of the white of the snow than you would imagine. So not a bad little exercise, doesn't take very long. The Derwent Inktense pencil are just the art material that just keep giving. Well, I certainly love them, and I know that for many of you that watch this channel, you do too. To find out more information about me, you can head to woodwardswatercolours.co.uk. You'll find lots of stuff about me there. But as always, don't forget to like and comment, and don't forget to hit the little bell icon, and it'll mean that you then will be notified when new videos are dropping. Oh, and subscribing is a good idea. If you're interested in channel membership, the real benefit is that it just supports me as I'm doing it. So for those of you who are supporting me as a channel member, I really appreciate that. But for now, that's it from me in this little van. I'm going to go and watch something nice and just relax and just rest and recoup and get well recovered from this flu. And I will see you in the next video of Woodward's Watercolours sometime very soon. Bye for now, everyone.